Hello, everybody. It's 5:05 p.m. Central Time on the 11th of November, 2022. It's Friday here in the United States. It's 11/11/22 at 5:05 p.m. Perfect time for me to start an update. So let's just get on the screen here a display capture so you can see what I see. Guys, I've got some breaking news in case you missed it. I don't think the mainstream media is talking about it much because the public's going to start to get a little concerned. A new 7.3 to 7.5 earthquake struck over here in the West Pacific. 7.3 to 7.5, and it's right next to, about 500 miles east of, our original Deep 7 from 2 days ago on the 9th. 2 days ago on the 9th, this deep earthquake struck here, 7.0. prompting me to issue a warning for a shallower, larger earthquake to strike next to the deep quake. It's spreading out away from it. We talked about the potential of going to the west and to the east on this, and here we are. We're right at the pinnacle tip of the plate boundary. I need to get it open on the USGS plate boundary map so you can see what I'm talking about, meaning pinnacle tip. It's like a triangular shape, and my microphone's falling here. It's like a triangular shape here, which you see north of New Zealand, northeast of Australia. So the deep earthquake came up about 500 miles over to the west. So this is not an aftershock. This is a separate earthquake, hundreds of miles over to the east, up above the deep earthquake on the red line right next to it, which is the plate boundary heading out and away from where this disturbance happened down below 2 days ago. So I'm going to get all the other earthquakes out of there right now. We're just going to look at these two. And let's get all the smaller events out of there. There we go. Okay, this is about as close as I'm going to get it to the most current earthquakes, big-wise. Now I'm going to turn on something here. We're going to turn on the shell. The shell is a feature I don't normally show, but we're going to see it going through the earth like two big bubbles. One down below, one up above. You see that, right? Okay. So first the earthquake down below, the one that's raised high off the globe, came in. Then up above it, like I said, on the red line. So I want you to think of this first earthquake, the one that's down below, like a giant bubble or dome of force or power coming up on the underside of here, and then it spread up. So another way to look at it is the earthquake that's raised high off the globe here, like down in the basement of something, and you're lifting up on the first floor. And the first floor up above then buckles and fractures up above you. And the more force you're applying down below, up above, the more breaking you get. Now, to top it all off, this deep earthquake, the one that happened 2 days ago, this Deep 7, happening down in a semi-fluid-like area called the asthenosphere, which is just the melted magma down below the plates. Complex word to describe it. And I want you to think of that like a wave coming up out of the fluid and then hitting into the plate, which is more solid, up above it, and we get a bigger earthquake up above it. So down below, we get a 7. Up above it, we get a 7.5. Well, 7.3 to 7.5. It originally came in, I think, at 7.6, and then they downgraded it a few points. So this is on day 2 of our 10-day to 14-day watch for a shallower, larger earthquake to spread out and away from the deep event. Let me take you over to my YouTube page and just show you where we issued the warning in case you're a new viewer, you don't know. 2 days ago, right here, 11/9/2022, issued the warning for this. You can just fast forward it to where I'm talking about the deep quake. And I even got closed captioning turned on so you don't have to listen to my annoying voice. Or if you're international, you can translate it into another language. If you want to know how to forecast an earthquake, I've already put out the directions of how to. But we're not going to get into that now. Look what's happened since. So, let's recap. Big deep earthquake down below the area. Then, 2 days later, up above it, spreading out and away 500 miles onto the nearest plate boundary. So now we have a trajectory that this is heading to the east. But it's also going to be spreading over to the west and down to the south. I showed you that big dome, that big bubble, going all the way around and out in all directions. It's going to seek out the nearest plate boundaries on all sides as this bubble or dome of pressure, which really is a very low frequency wave, spreading out and across the Pacific in all directions. And look what happened. Spreading out and across, a new, rare, deep earthquake struck below Brazil. And it's a deep 5 down below the plate here. So really what's going on is first, we get a big deep quake here. We spread across. Something's going on now down below South America. Same time that happened, going over in the other direction, right up here by Japan. A letter D is there to stand for deep earthquakes. And we got a new deep earthquake in Japan. Deep earthquake here in Japan, right at the plate boundary. Deep earthquake all the way over here, more rare, on the inside of the plate boundary of South America. Now, I would say it's about the same distance from the deep earthquake in Japan to Tonga as it is from Tonga over to Peru. It's roughly the same. Yeah, and again, it might be give or take 1,000 miles even, but still, this is the middle point between the two deep quakes on either side, spreading up, out, and away. Now, I'm going to show you something else on Earthquake 3D, which I don't normally show very much. We're going to turn off the Earth entirely and turn on the angle. Now, the angle, it's kind of complex looking here, but here's our big deep earthquake, so you can just get, it's like a wedge going down and coming up on both sides. Let's bring it to the middle here. Do you see it where the deep earthquakes are spreading up to the west and to the east? But this is 8,000 to 10,000 miles apart in the course of a day. So what could cause that? Well, a big upwelling force, a huge amount of energy coming up, spreading out over to the east, all the way to South America, spreading out over to the west, all the way to Japan. Another way to look at this final way is to look just at the Pacific. It's spreading out over to the West Pacific and over to the east, beyond the Pacific, into the Nazca Plate, into adjacent plates to the west and to the east. So big time movement. This is a 100% earthquake forecast hit for me again, on top of what happened in Italy just a day or two ago. Big time movement happening in the West Pacific. We're not done yet. This is just the start of it. We're on day 2 of a 14-day watch, and we have a bunch of new deep earthquakes spreading out across pretty much half the planet, from South America all the way over to Japan. Now let's mention South America. This deep earthquake here, Christmas 2017. Listen to this. So December 14th or 15th of 2017, or maybe it was 2016. Gosh, it was either 2016 or 2017. Anyway, a deep 6 strikes right below this triangular formation here, which is a mountain range that goes up, and the border goes along there as well. So you can see that right there. Deep earthquake 6.0 strikes down below it on December 15th. I make a video telling everybody to watch for a 1 magnitude larger earthquake or more to strike within the next 7 to 10 days. And you can do the math on that. It's December 15th, deep earthquake strikes. I tell everybody to watch for it by Christmas. Everyone comes over, and I'm not everybody, my viewers kind of laid off on this, but everybody else came over and said I was trying to scare people for Christmas money. I go, guys, we don't get paid till a month later. Anyway, on Christmas Day, the biggest earthquake for the whole planet, for the whole year, hit just south of this location down here on the coast of Chile on Christmas Day, 8 point something. So whenever we get a deep earthquake here, it's rare, hardly ever happens, but when we do, we watch along the coast of South America for a shallower, larger earthquake, up to 2 magnitudes larger, up to 2. Now that's way different than what I normally issue a forecast on. Normally it's 1 magnitude, so I'm not issuing a forecast on this. I'm just going to tell you we're going to watch for it on the coast down here off the coast for up to a 7. But likely, we're going to minus off a magnitude because of USGS downgrade. We're going to take it down to a 5.9, right? I'll take a 7 down to a 5.9. Anyway, it won't matter. It'll be out here in the ocean, I think, just like the last time. But last time, it was way, way, way bigger. Back in 2016, it was 2016. So let's recap. New deep earthquake, new shallower, larger earthquake next to it, 2 giant arrows pointing out over to the east, and then the adjacent plate over to the east. Over in South America, this is the Nazca Plate. We go directly underneath it, and down below here, something's going on. Now let's get over to Japan. The adjacent plate over to the west, following out of the Pacific, over below Japan is doing the same thing. It's just a slightly smaller earthquake. It's a 4.6 to 4.7. Again, over here in South America, it's a 5. Over here, it's a 4.6 to 4.7. Just a hair of a point difference between the two on 2 different plates spreading out in 2 different directions. Now, when you look at the Pacific, I want you to really look at it like two wings going off of the Pacific, over below South America and over below Japan. Do you see that? Two separate breaks in the plate. Now, there's some things that I found in the past few days, which I can't go into now, and I may go into later, most likely over on the Crypto Alchemist channel, of all places, where you guys should probably subscribe at this point, due to the things that I'm finding. And I have to come out with to the public, but I can't do it on my YouTube channel. Certainly can't do it on my YouTube channel, or if I do, it's going to be after I bring it out to the public on another channel that can handle this information. It's just amazing what I found. You won't believe it, actually. I didn't even believe what I found. You guys can talk to my longtime viewers in chat who saw what I showed live. They all agree, even the skeptic people who are in there who don't like me. Even were like, they were posting scratching head emojis. My skeptics were posting scratching head emojis. There we go. Now, I'm not going into it now. If you want to find out, I guess you're just going to have to tune in later. It's unbelievable. Okay. So, the way I can sum it up, Paul Cook is right. Who's Paul Cook? You're going to have to look into that. Paul Cook on YouTube. He's right. Anyway, going across the West Pacific, a stepping stone path of the same-sized earthquake stands out across a huge distance, going from Kamchatka, Russia, all the way back down here to Sumatra, Indonesia, even beyond over towards Myanmar. And you'll see, if I back this out far enough, that we're somewhat equally spaced on these fours, and they are the same size, 4.6, 4.6, 4.5, 4.6. We go down to a 4.4. It's not that even much of a drop. In the middle of it all, our warned area at Okinawa got hit by 1 magnitude less than expected. Again, if this was 1 higher, now I could go in and take a look at the magnitudes on this. We can go check the USGS site, go look at the origin page, and just get a good idea of what they're showing for body magnitude picked up across the area. Now notice, body magnitude, the way normally it's lower, 5.6 showing up. And it matters because I issued a warning for a 6, right? And I told everybody they would downgrade it to a 5.9. Did I not? I said I was going to forecast their downgrades, right? I did. This is a perfect example of me issuing the warning and forecasting their downgrade. So let's go down the list. The highest on the list that I'm seeing so far is 5.9. So we'll throw out the 5.9. We're also going to throw out the low-end 5s. We're going to throw out the 4s and 5s. We're also going to throw out the upper 5s. Are there any 6s on the list, I guess I should say. If there's any 6s on the list, we'll throw those out as well. And that still leaves us with an upper 5. 5.8. 5.7, 5.8, 5.6, 5. They have it at 5.6, but I'll just tell you right now. Look, there are several 6s on the list. Hold on. There's a 6. There's another 6. Here's another 6.1. We throw out the 6.1 and the 6. We do. We throw those out and the 5.9. It still leaves us with an upper 5.8 to 5 something. And that matters to me. This really matters to me, because that certainly puts this earthquake within the magnitude of what I warned for, and then they downgrade it beyond it. So originally, as reported, when it comes in, there's the earthquake I warned for, it's within the magnitude, and it's directly at Okinawa. I warned directly at Okinawa, and let me show you the island of Okinawa. It is right here where the U.S. military bases are. Let's go pull the coordinates and just measure how far off of Okinawa I am. So copy. Paste. This matters because it's a direct earthquake forecast hit for the military. And I am issuing warnings for the military. Not directly. I mean, I don't work for them, but I would hope they would get the warning and be appreciative of getting a warning for their base in a 6.0 range. 100 miles off the coast. 99 miles. 99 miles off the coast. And if we go to the closest point, it's 95. Now, I don't know exactly where the U.S. military base is on here. I guess it's probably where the big airport is. 112 from the, Kadena Air Force Base. All right, anyway. So check it off the list. That is the 6 that we're looking. I set up to 6.5. And then a 5.9 hits, basically. I'm within a half magnitude. There's the quake we're looking for. Check it off the list. But notice how that large quake, whether it's a 5.3 or a 5.9, it's the biggest of the bunch across the whole West Pacific aside from the 7. And it's directly in the middle of the whole area. If you consider the earthquakes from here at Kamchatka all the way down to here at Sumatra and back around up into my other warned area, Siberia, Russia. Zdravstvuyte, Special Agent Dutch Synth reporting for duty. Yet. No, I'm not. Okay, motherland, whatever. I took Russian. Yeah, Zdravstvuyte, Tavarish, right? Okay, Tavarish means France. 4.4 to 4.9 came rolling in at Lake Baikal. And it's on the arrow, and we talked about watching for this. But in light of what I found yesterday about what's in Russia, the giant star fort that's here, and it's indisputable. I measured it. I'll show you that later. It's hundreds and hundreds. Well, actually, that's like 4,000 miles long, 3,000 miles long. 3,000-mile long structure has been built here some point in the past. Not like the Great Wall of China. It's consisting of mountain ranges, and it's definitely in a diamond shape. It's been weathered down over time, but I measured it last night from point to point. It's exactly symmetrical, down to the mile almost, on all sides. Diamond shape. Now, on the south side of the diamond shape, it's tilted, and I can bring it over to you and show you how it's tilted over here in Russia. Russia. Let's turn off our borders and labels. Just know that we're looking at Russia here. Here is Lake Baikal, and the earthquake just struck at the south tip of it. Now, the structure that I found and measured, to even see it, we have to look from almost a planet away. And it goes north to south, out at a pinnacle, and comes back. Now, the eastern side's a little harder to see, but it goes down into a river basin. But it definitely comes out to a pinnacle point, goes down to the south, back up to the north. Again, I can measure this across to show you how big this is. Did I say 3,000 miles? I'm sorry, it's 3,000 kilometers, or 2,800 kilometers. Is that right? 2,200 kilometers, okay. In miles, it is 1,300 miles long. And across, it is half that, so it's symmetrical. Anyway, this thing, look up on the north side, and you'll see mountain ranges, right? Now, mimicking that on the south side, this thing's tilted over time, and it's got one of the deepest freshwater lakes in the world, if not the biggest freshwater lake in the world, is Lake Baikal. South point of that, that's where we go across, and you can see the craton comes in on the south side and goes across and points down towards the Taklamakan Desert in China, and that's why I got an arrow there. So the earthquakes, or the flow, the seismic flow, goes along the interior edge of the craton and focuses in down here. Now, let's talk about this. 4.4 up here at Lake Baikal. 4.2 down here at Myanmar. 4.4 plus 4.2 equals 4.6. It's pretty easy to add together magnitudes. You literally do them simple addition. You don't add the front end. You don't add the... So two 4s together still equals a 4, but you add the points together on the end. So, in other words, 4.4 plus 4.2 equals 4.6. 2 plus 4 equals 6, see? Now, why does that matter? Look what struck out in front of it. A new 4.6. So, let's show you what really happened. Out here at Lake Baikal, 4.4. Down here at Myanmar, 4.2. They both come together. My arrows show it on my map. USGS map doesn't show it. Over here, on the number 7, 7-shaped Carlsberg Ridge, that goes up into Iran. See it? So these two, yesterday, the wave comes in from the north, the wave comes in on the plate boundary from the south, focuses in here, cracks with a new combined total quake. And it's not that these two quakes caused it. It's that these two quakes and the new quake out in front of it are all caused by a vibrating very low frequency that's going through this whole plate structure and reflecting back into itself here at Iran currently. Now, over to the west, we're still dealing with what happened in Europe. I have to take my viewers back a day and show you what happened. Turkey got hit with a mid-range 4, right where I was talking about. Let me show you. See the lake that's right there where the earthquake struck? Let me zoom in and show you. See right here? USGS map doesn't really have the lake on it. I have to zoom in pretty close to get it. There it is. But anyway, so new earthquake struck right in between the two red lines, and that's where we talked about my last video. If you didn't catch my last video, I already showed it over on YouTube. It's from 2 days ago, and I zoomed in on this spot, talked about it at the next spot to break. Well, it broke right afterwards, after the video premiere. Now, Italy is still going, still swarming, still breaking on the plate boundary, and we're moving out away from the plate boundary. Let me show you in Italy what's going on. See where the orange-colored earthquake for the USGS is reported. Big stack of quakes there over the last 48 hours, and the biggest earthquake in years struck right next to Norcia, 70 miles north of my warned area. I warned for a 6.1, 6.1 hit. They downgraded it to a 5.7, whatever. Now all the aftershocks kind of tell us, look, their downgrade is crazy. It was a 6. Look, 5s don't have aftershocks like this, guys. They don't. It was a big break on the plate boundary. So look where it is in Italy. It's out on the Adriatic Sea, right along the coast. Hold on, look at this. See the red line? Well, the red line goes right along there. So what caused it? Down below the letter J-shaped plate boundary here at the Tyrrhenian Sea, a deep 5.1 struck 9 days ago. So a deep earthquake 9 days ago vibrated up and down the plate boundary, shook pretty much all of Europe from over at Romania, going up to Moldova and Ukraine, and it shook all the way out over to the west, over across Algeria, over down into Morocco. All of this got 5s over here in the Eastern Europe and 4s down here. Then this broke in the middle. So let's recap. First, the deep earthquake happened here 9 or 10 days ago. Then broke over to the east and to the west, moved all the way around the outside edge of Europe. We watched a bunch of somewhat noteworthy earthquakes, 3s basically, 2s and 3s, went all the way around the outside edge, then boom, right in the middle it breaks. And it's still breaking now as new pushes are coming in from the previous round of activity that happened on the same day. You got to understand what's going on, guys. We got multiple checks in the mail when it comes to earthquakes. For instance, these pinkish-colored earthquakes struck the same day as Italy. So a new flow coming in 3 days ago, which is now reaching to Iran and heading over towards Europe now. And that doesn't even count all this. This is the next flow that's heading out from the West Pacific, and it's going to be heading to Europe in the next several days, prompting me to issue all these warnings now on my YouTube channel for the next 7 to 10 days, up to 14 days, which is very rare for me to do. I don't do 14-day watches. I normally do 7. The reason we're doing a 2-week watch is because on big movement like this, we tend to see the whole planet compensate. Spread out and away from this with noteworthy sized earthquakes, big ones, that spread out and away all the way around the planet. And I've got multiple warnings going. Let's talk about the United States, Hawaii, Central America, and South America. So South America will be pretty much the easiest to do right now because there's only a handful of other earthquakes reported here. A 4 from yesterday, but the big deep earthquake, a 5 is pretty big. This is really deep down below the plate. Now, all the way out here today, a 5 to 5.3 also struck. I would call that parallel almost if you account for this silly curvature of the Earth that this is doing. We go over here along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Let's go over to the USGS map and show you. So earthquake down below Peru, deep, and then shallow up above, all the way over on the edge of the plate over here, we're moving. Something's going on down below South America. Now, really, something's going on down below the whole freaking planet. Pardon my language. And that's proper use of the word freaking if you're referring to something that doesn't normally happen. It might happen maybe a few times a year, at the most a couple times a year. Let's say a couple, because couple is 2, right? So only a couple times a year this happens, where we go into real deep earthquake mode, which then is followed by major earthquake mode up above, up shallow where everybody feels it. So first we see the deep earthquakes, then the shallow largers start to spread out. So something's going on below South America between, actually we go around the plate boundaries. So we have to go up and around through Venezuela, and we have to go down and around and across through South Sandwich to get to that point out here. So another way to look at it is just really something's going on below the whole plate right now. And then we look between our current sets of earthquakes to find the next spots to be hit. So this is actually pretty simple. Up here in South America, you've got a big cluster of earthquakes along the coast of Central America, And then down here in South America, we have a small cluster. We look between the two for the halfway point. And we don't just draw a straight line between them. We go around the bends of the plate. If we go around the bends of the plate, halfway point brings us into one of the more famous earthquake zones on the planet. This is Ecuador going up north to Colombia, south to Panama. Now let me show you on the USGS map what's there. I just told you, Colombia, Panama, right here, Ecuador. Look what's there. The Cocos Plate, where it meets up with the Nazca Plate, where it meets up with the Caribbean Plate. All 3 plates meet right there. So we would watch on the north side for a significant break to take place, 6.0 plus. And then down to the south, we would also watch where the rings overlap. So it's pretty simple. We would watch North Chile going into Argentina, Bolivia for a potential large quake. Same size, 6-ish. Now, here in Central America, where all three sets of rings overlap, look where all three sets of rings overlap. They overlap on Guatemala. And let's go look. What's in Guatemala? Well, albeit it must just be chance or coincidence that it's the next plate boundary. It's not. It's not chance or coincidence. The reason all three rings are overlapping on there is that's the next spot to break. I would think of it somewhat symmetrically. It's happening around the edge of the plate boundaries where they meet, and it's going to flow over to the east. And guess who's going to get hit over the next several days after this flows out over to the east? Well, obviously, we're going to move over on the east side of the plate boundary over from Puerto Rico down to Venezuela. On the east side of the plate. It's going to transfer in from over here, go over to here. It's very basic. So a 6 down to the south, and then what's going to strike on the coast of Mexico? Well, let's see. This is now a new warning I'm probably going to have to issue in the next few days. In Mexico, we have the potential to go up as well. Somebody get a hold of Casimiro. Seriously, somebody get a hold of him because he's got the big reach down to the Spanish audience down in Mexico. And it's looking like we're going to break here. Or maybe just a little bit to the north on the coastline here. Right before we get to the plate boundary. And that's just because of what's going on over in Japan. A 6 just hit. They downgraded it, whatever. We've got a 7 next to the deep quake. And we're going to be moving on all sides. And I did not include Mexico in my last forecast. So that's the only one I would have to add in. The rest all have warnings going already. So, for instance, we have a warning going right here at Peru for a 6.9, and now this happens. Deep earthquake down below it. Hawaii, we have a warning as well. Hawaii's warning going up into the 5 range, and it's most likely going to be striking next to Mauna Loa. We have to keep an eye on Mauna Loa now. I hate to have to say it because I was just ripping on the mainstream media a couple of weeks ago when the mainstream media came out and falsely reported that the USGS issued a quote-unquote warning for the volcano at Mauna Loa. Instead, it was just they're watching this little swarm take place, and they stopped hikers from going up, apparently. So they didn't issue a warning, and I chastised the mainstream media for saying they did. A warning is a big deal. Again, it's not like you just say you're watching it or something. They're like, warning issued. Okay. Well, now here we are. I think at this point, we probably should be issuing some kind of real official watch on Mauna Loa. I mean, come on. I don't have to issue these normally. Normally, I'm just doing seismic. Normally, I don't have to tell the professionals what I think on this. But the flow that's going to be coming in on this is going to be tremendous. So it's already on day 2 reaching over to Okinawa. It's reaching out with deep earthquakes across the plate on both sides. We've got a new 7.3 right next to it, or 7.5 to 7.6, really, a big earthquake. And I didn't even talk about the tsunami warning that was issued on this. There was a tsunami. I was asleep, of course. It happened 30 minutes after I went to bed. I did not hear the ding of the bell either. I even had it turned all the way up. I'd been up for 23 hours covering the previous earthquakes. I laid down and it happened. So weird. Anyway, it looks like we're going to be dealing with a significant push going all the way around the plate, which brings us into Hawaii and the potential for possible activity at Mauna Loa. And certainly seismic is about to take a step up from 2s and a 3. You got 2s and a 3. You're about to take 2 magnitude step up. That's a 100-fold increase in power to happen in the next few days. Now, I'm watching from Mauna Loa over to Kilauea for seismic. Now, volcanic. I don't forecast volcanoes. I can tell you when this very low frequency wave, where the peaks are thousands of miles long, it's thousands of miles between peaks on the wave, that the wave I'm talking about here is going to vibrate in over the next few days. And when it gets to its peak, you're going to get your quake. And a lot of volcanic increase, most likely. Imagine what it would do to the magma chambers. A vibrating, very low frequency incoming wave that's huge, generated down below the plates in the magma, is spreading up and around across the plate boundaries, and then reaches up to Kamchatka and follows the Hawaiian island chain and so forth down into Hawaii, like a wave guide for a microwave, guides the wave to your food. And you see which way it would direct. It would direct from this arrow shape up to the north, and it goes down across over into Hawaii. Alaska should also see big activity. I already got you in the forecast as well. We've got a warning going out here right off the coast of the pinnacle tip of mainland Alaska. That's the Aleutian Island chain tip. That's Bogoslov volcano, but we have an earthquake warning going there for 6.5 plus. West Coast United States, I've got a warning for a rare 6 to strike on land in California. But first, it all hinges upon what comes in from the northwest. And if you want to see the warning, go over and check it over on YouTube. It's 2 days ago. Earthquake forecast for the week. But I'm interested in the activity coming in on the edge of the Craton to the north. Look, coming in out of Canada. Oh, Canada. Come on, guys. Get your Molsons. Let's go take a look. Going up into Canada. Going into the great north. Yes. Okay, let's go take a look. I love my Canadian viewers, guys. Unfortunately, I only speak American. Different than English. I can speak a little French, but that won't get me any love there. You know what I mean? Okay. Come on, I had to crack a French joke. Oui? Take a look where we are. Everybody's going to say nay, or however you say no in French. Check it out. We've got a bunch of oil pumping operations out here. Oil and gas. Fracking, as we call it down here in good old Missouri, here in the middle of the United States. Fracking. And it's not just fracking. It's mainly oil here, believe it or not. We've got a lot of oil going on here. And every one of these little pads in the ground is a different drill point. And the drill points go down kilometers into the crust. But look, we're on the edge of the Craton. You see it. There's the Craton edge. It goes up and bends up into Alaska. It goes down into the United States. Goes right into Yellowstone. Here's Craton edge. Goes down into Yellowstone. Then it carries on. Down across. You see it goes into Colorado. Down across. Down through Texas. Makes a bend up through Texas. That's not a river. That's a bend and a fold in the plate that goes up by 1,000 feet. That's a 1,000-foot bulge here in Texas. We go back up and over to the east, over into Arkansas, then into the New Madrid seismic zone. Here's St. Louis, Missouri up here, for instance. Town of New Madrid's right in the middle of this letter N shape and U shape bend that goes down through the South United States. Goes back up the East Coast. That is this. Everything I just showed you from Canada, down through Texas, back up to the East Coast. Craton edge. Now that matters. The Craton edge really matters. Look, the earthquakes go right across it. And we got a second outbreak on the New Madrid seismic zone this week. Second. We went months without anything. Now we got a 3.5, a 3.1. Add it all together, it equals what I was looking for. We were looking for upper 3 to low 4 activity, rare, to come into the New Madrid seismic zone. Additionally, we were looking for Vermont, New Hampshire to get hit, up here to the north. And look, did they get it? Is that New Hampshire or Vermont? Hold on. I know they're side by side. New Hampshire. New Hampshire. Hey guys, I would come up, but I don't know if that would go over very well up there. Vermont, all good. New Hampshire, not happening. No offense. Long story. Anyway, edge of the Craton moving up to the east by northeast. That follows the New Madrid seismic zone. And this is just 2 days worth of quakes. Let's go back to, start of the week. There we go. Now, it might look like a jumbled mess, so let's just take a look at it this way. Craton edge match perfect. Going out of Idaho, down through Colorado, down through Texas, back to Oklahoma, back to the New Madrid, up to the East Coast. My biggest discovery. Again, that there's a flow going across the plate from the West Coast to the East Coast, or that there's a flow going across Europe, from Eastern Europe to Western Europe. It's going the opposite direction. United States, it's going to west to east. Europe, it's going east to west. And guess where they're all coming together at? The earthquakes. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Same for South America. It's going west to east around South America like a giant river. In both directions. It's going down and around and back up. The other direction, it's going the opposite way. It's going out of the West Pacific and it's flowing over towards Europe. It's trying to reach equilibrium from the opposite side of something. And whether it's a globe or a disc or flat or whatever, we're trying to equalize on all sides, spreading out and away from where this big whatever is happening underneath us. Now, my big discovery about what I found about the plates is going to have to come at a future time, but I will tell you that it's starting to look like I said, Paul Cook is right. And what did Paul Cook say? Paul Cook told us and showed us evidence that maybe, possibly, whole land masses were formed at some point in the past. And I don't mean formed naturally. I mean formed some other way. And he started to show video evidence of that. And everybody mocked and ridiculed him. Everybody said he was crazy. But now after what I found and what I showed on my stream, it's indisputable. And it's not just England. It's whole continents were either shaped or formed by something or someone intelligent, shaped, on purpose, shaped. Either sculpted, shaped, like they came in afterwards and shaped it that way, or they made it to begin with. I don't know which. I'm leaning towards made it to begin with because it's what we found is just, I'm going to have to write a book on it or something. I'm going to have to put out a long series of videos on this. It's going to take way more than what I'm just telling you now. This is just preparing you and softening you up for the information that I found and showed everybody last night. And I stand by it. Okay, anyway, United States. We got warnings going in California. You can go watch. You can go see where we issued the warning. Who got hit today? Biggest earthquake of the bunch? Ridgecrest. So far, Ridgecrest. Spot on, right at Ridgecrest, 3.1. They listed as Searles Valley on the USGS map. I'm going to zoom in and show you. See where it says Ridgecrest? Why wouldn't they just list it at Ridgecrest? That's the nearest town. Why would they just list it as Searles Valley? Why wouldn't they just Seriously. Is it really that big of a deal to give a confirmation to a guy, guys? Is it? Because, again, I'll measure. I'll use your map. How far are we from Ridgecrest? Let's zoom in. Here's downtown Ridgecrest. Here's the earthquake. It's at China Lake. It's 5 miles. It's 5 miles outside of downtown Ridgecrest, and they listed as Searles Valley. Searles Valley is all the way up here. I mean, Searles Valley technically goes down to the south, but you see it. There's Owens Valley and Searles Valley, and then China Lake, and then Ridgecrest. So I would say that's deliberate because, again, the feud that's happening between me and the professionals and me, I'm not feuding them. So what do you think the chances are that two of the same-sized earthquakes would strike across the edge of the North American craton on the same day, on the same path? It's impossible to be chance. This happens regularly on a weekly basis. So, now, finally, let me wrap this up. Let's go back to where we started. Huge earthquake hit. Now, I am going to go look up and just see what the tsunami information was on this. There is no tsunami on the quake. That's good. But originally, there was a watch or an advisory issued. See where it says this? American Samoa Warning Advisory Watch. We're going to click on it and just read it. Okay, the tsunami advisory continues and is in effect for just at American Samoa right there. Okay, that's a localized emergency warning for the people in the area, which is to be expected. Anytime a huge earthquake hits, it's in the ocean or even next to the ocean a few miles inland, you look for potential underwater landslides, uplift, or possibly even some kind of subsidence, some kind of downfalling of the plate boundary. And that can cause waves. They are originally saying a hazardous tsunami may have been generated. You, of course, need to notify emergency managers and blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's the first one. Then it looks like we get a warning watch number 4. And they say a tsunami was generated by this earthquake. This all happened while I was asleep. The maximum tsunami height was 1/10 to 4/10 of a foot. So a couple inches. Minor sea level fluctuations may continue over the next few hours. Potential impact. So a nothing burger on the tsunami on this one. On this one. Is this the right quake? Yeah, okay. So there it is. no tsunami was generated, or if it was a 1 inch to 4 inch tsunami. All right, now that that's been looked at, let's go take a look at the National Data Buoy Center and see which buoys went into event mode. We got one buoy in event mode. Now, I was looking for this yesterday, or 2 days ago, on the Deep Quake. I was looking for buoys to be in event mode all the way around the area. That didn't happen. But this is what an event mode looks like on the buoys if you come over to check the buoys. So it'll be flashing like this for 24 hours after it takes place, just so you can see it. And then you'll see a little red line in there. You might not even see it on screen here. It's green, blue, green, and red, and it takes a section, a cross-section. The computer does, or whatever. People, maybe scientists came in and reviewed this, but in the middle of there, you'll see a red line. Now, you can click on View Event Details. The red line is 15 seconds of information. So it's going to show us what happened, a snapshot over 15 seconds, or 30 seconds, or so forth, however long it goes. Here's a 15-second snapshot of the earthquake. And again, the disturbance out in the water, it's hard to see on this chart, so they give you a blow-up of it. And here we are in meters. So 4951 meters, and then we go into the points of meters. And then we go into the tenths of points of meters. So tenths of a meter disturbance out there, which means an inch or two. Again, small. If this was full meters displacement out there, you would know a huge earthquake was happening because there'd be waves 3 or 4 feet high just generated out in the ocean before they ever even came in on land, for instance. Do you understand? So this is a small one, but we've seen way bigger. So that is, interesting to see that there was a small little wave. This kind of reminds me of Japan back in 2011 when there was a 7.3 or 7.2 quake and it generated maybe a foot-high tsunami or something. Everybody ignored it. 2 days later, we had the biggest earthquake second biggest earthquake in recorded history was Japan quake. And then, of course, we had the 9 back in 1960, 9.5, which is the biggest in recorded history, and that was in Chile in 1960. Anyway, back to the whole point of making this update. A direct earthquake forecast hit of a shallower, larger earthquake, a full half magnitude larger, which is huge when it gets to 7.0 range. That's like 5 more 7s, basically. Did you guys know that when you add on a point to an earthquake, it's just like adding on another of that earthquake? So in other words, if you got 2 5s and you add on another 5, that makes it 5.1 to 5.2. You got 3 5s, it makes it 5.3. So to get 7.5 to 7.6 next to the 7 that originally struck, that's 0.6 higher on a 7. So that's like 5 more 7s energy involved up above with this one than originally with this one 2 days ago. So they had a 2-day warning in Tonga for this quake, and we talked about watching from Tonga here, where the quake is, over as far west as New Caledonia, Papua New Guinea, and as far east as Tonga, south towards New Zealand and the Kermadec Islands as the potential area to watch. Around this one, coming up next to this big, deep quake. I might even have that in the description of my video, which I have not edited. And again, there's trolls that copy this, so they see if I, change it or something, right? So they document that over on Facebook if you want to see. So here we are. There's now been a 7.0 range plus 2 additional, blah, 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 blah. And this Dennis-Mir, the new forecast, covers each continent. This next 7 days is going to be pretty busy. I'm expecting pretty much around a 6s across the whole spread, plus a possible larger earthquake activity going up above 7.0 next to the deep quake. There it is. And across from the deep quake in South America. There you go. All right, so now coming on this is going to be a shallower, larger quake, most likely at South America. Shallower, larger quake over here at Japan. I have to issue a new warning for Japan now that Okinawa's been hit and checked off the list. We're going to get hit back here at the coast of Honshu. Tokyo again, just to the north, and it's going to be pretty big. This time it's going to go a magnitude higher, so it's going to be 6.5. But we might have to do a USGS forecast downgrade again. So I can forecast their downgrade. They're going to take a magnitude off so I don't hit it. So now that I told you that, watch for the 6.9 to hit, and for them to take it down to a 5.9. Okay? Or for them to even take it further. But watch for it originally to come in at a 6. Okay. On the coast of Japan next. Man, things are really heating up. Do you have an earthquake plan? I would encourage you to have an earthquake plan. You need to listen right now. Take the time to develop an emergency kit. Hey, a new earthquake just struck in China as I'm talking here. New 4.6 just came rolling in right on my warned area. Now it's the same size earthquake on both sides. Check it out. 4.4 plus 4.2 equals 4.6, right? 4.6 out in front of it, 4.6 right behind it. Bow! When did that hit? 2313 UTC. It hit 30 minutes ago. In China, in my warned area. Backside, right here. Wow. Anyway, you need to know what to do when an earthquake strikes. Of course, it doesn't matter when it's small, right? You just feel it. I've never felt an earthquake, knock on wood, of any kind. Pretty weird, right? That's pretty freaky, right? Never felt a quake. But I've heard that when it hits, you only have a few seconds to really figure out what to do. And in this case, you're supposed to take shelter underneath a table or a desk. Well, that's assuming you're awake, right? Otherwise, you're going to be what? You're going to be asleep, right? Either awake or asleep or at work. Halfway between the two sometimes, right? At work. But you're going to need to know what to do almost immediately. Take shelter underneath a table or a desk. A lot of people are taught overseas to run outside if the earthquake's big. If it's a big earthquake, they're taught to run outside overseas because of the type of structures in the building code is not really sufficient to handle a large earthquake. We all know this. That's why they run outside with their hands over their heads to protect them, right, guys? International. But here in the United States and in Western countries, we are all taught to take shelter underneath a table or a desk, even if you're in a big building, and not to run outside. Now, in big stone-stacked structures like cinder block buildings, I know a lot of warehouses here in the United States where people work, and some buildings are made out of cinder block. Well, even if it's reinforced with rebar or something, or kind of pour inside, still, stone stack structure, you're going to want to have an exit plan, probably for right after the earthquake. During the earthquake, running outside probably is going to be pretty hard. But right after, you might need to have a place like a fire drill, a pre-designated area to meet outside a stone stack building. All the others, the steel frame buildings, the skyscrapers, the frame buildings, wooden frame buildings, I would take shelter underneath a table or desk. Even in a huge quake, I wouldn't run outside. Unless literally I thought the building was going to collapse. So that's my advice. Again, you're going to follow your own thoughts on this. Now, speaking of my advice, that's exactly what this whole video is. It's just my ideas, my theories, and my theories that I've actually published for other people to repeat the earthquake forecasting method. So it's not a secret. You can repeat the methodology. I've published it. But I've had to add a disclaimer to all my videos, to my channel, and to my Twitch channel as of last night. Long story on that, but I've had to add it for legal purposes. Because some people are trying to blame me for misses that I have and not give me credit for the successes that I have, and to legally blame me for the misses that I would make that they might or might not prepare for. So now you need to read the disclaimer, which clearly says, this is for my viewers' consideration only, and I am not urging the public to act on any of the things that I say, including my earthquake warnings and watches. I'm watching these areas, and I'm telling you why I'm watching these areas. If you want to watch the areas along with me, you can. But I'm not telling you to. I'm telling you to be prepared for seismic activity, and that you can see it if you watch following the arrows, and it'll come your way. So I have to be very specific because there's going to be a bunch of weasels now. People are already trying to come in and basically cash in, which we all know people are like that, but it's just so sad that as soon as I hit the earthquake in Italy, the biggest earthquake in years in Italy, that this happens. So, warned Italy for a 6.1. 6.1 hits, the largest for the whole country in years. And then that happens. But we know what they did to their professionals over in Italy before, right? they put them in jail for not issuing an appropriate warning. Did you know this? Over in Italy, a 6.0 hit back in 2011 up in North Italy. And they jailed their professionals for not telling them or being prepared for the earthquake or warning them. And I had actually issued a warning for North Italy on that quake. It was based on the fracking operations there. They have a bunch of fracking operations up there in North Italy, drill points on the plate boundary. Anyway, they arrested their professionals and put them in jail for not issuing the warning. So, now, here, you get the warning. I don't know what to say about that. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, I guess, over there. I shouldn't say damned when speaking of the Vatican, you know. Hey, did you guys hear? Hey, this is a good way to sign it off. They're holding a special conference over at Mount Hermon, the famous Mount Hermon, where Moses supposedly went to get the 10 Commandments. And the Pope, along with some world leaders, are all there right now, apparently. My wife told me this. I don't know if it's today or if it was just over the past couple days. And they're putting out what they're calling the 10 Commandments of climate change. Now, I do have something to say about this, and this is specifically to my European and Mediterranean viewers. If you're going to put out the 10 Commandments of climate change, maybe as the first commandment, you should put, since this applies to you guys especially, since you're all into that, you should put as number 1, thou shalt not microwave or radio wave the ionosphere and atmosphere above the North Pole. Thou shalt not radiate the atmosphere with heat going into the hundreds of degrees Celsius above the Arctic, with places like SPEAR, ISCAT, for instance. The ISCAT, Svalbard, Space Plasma Exploration, for instance. Just one example, it might not even be on anymore. You guys were zapping up the atmosphere, creating pockets of plasma, which is superheated kilometers wide. Now that's just SPEAR. I'm more interested in your new project that you're building, the 5 HAARP arrays. Let's go over the 5 HAARP arrays you're building over there with hundreds of thousands of antennas. At ISCAT 3D, here's your animation announcing how you're going to build it back in 2015. Here, look at this. Here's what it is in the size comparison to people and the number of antennas per station. This is the computer animation of what you guys intended to build, right? Well, 5 of these, huh? Well, what are those? These are FM antennas. So they're doing their HAARP on FM instead of high frequency. Well, it's still a very, very high frequency, VHF. They're doing it with VHF. Now, they built 5 of these, and let me show you what it looks like. Here we go. Let's get it on the screen here. There. This is from them directly, and it's an Asian manual that they put out, but you see it down here in Norway. See 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, do you see how they have it beaming up? Do you guys? Oh, wait, you don't see this. Hold on. You got to see this. You got to see this. This is seriously worth looking at. Sorry, I didn't have a display capture turned on. Take a look. Here is the European HAARP array. And they have 5 of these they're building or built, and this is just one of them with 50,000 antennas at one site. FM. Now, they're building these in Norway. And in Norway, check this out. See this. This is the graphic they put out for their ISCAT 3D to do 3D plasma generation and then to observe from side stations and cross the beams. And where the beams cross, the area where the beams cross is called a scalar. They're doing, for instance, they're crossing the beams over at CERN underground. In the giant tubes, they cross 2 giant powerful microwave beams powered by klystron banks. And they cross the beams, and where the beams cross, it's called the scalar, and they're doing scalar Higgs boson experiments. You have to search scalar Higgs boson, and you will find all their scalar Higgs boson experiments. The scalar is just an area where the beams cross, where there's energy that happens at a distance, a collision, interfering of the particles at a distance. So, anyway, this happens up in the ionosphere, and they can create northern lights, huge pockets of superheated areas, many, many, many kilometers wide, hundreds of kilometers wide, especially if you're using 5 different arrays that look like this. Now, coincidentally, at the same time that they started this project with iSCAT 3D on the FM bands, Norway itself, which you can see down here at the bottom of this graphic, Norway itself banned the use of FM for citizens. So if you had a car radio, for instance, and the car radio goes up to 108 normally FM on the FM dial, 108 FM, well, if you could take that up to 200 or 300 or 400 FM, you would hear this. And if you broadcast on that, it would interfere. And their broadcasts are going to interfere with your car radios there on FM band if they're going down below 108. You would hear it. It would sound like whoosh, whoosh. It would sound like a wave going up and down, but really, really loud and powerful, like some kind of sci-fi sound effect. So the 10 Commandments of climate change, right? Thou shalt not microwave, high-frequency radiate, or otherwise radio wave the atmosphere, ionosphere, for research purposes, or for military purposes, or for recreational leisure, which I think they would probably do too, just to reflect regular radio waves over the horizon. So back to it, it's a load of crap. How can you talk to us about climate change and worrying about it when you're literally creating superheated pockets of plasma above the frickin' North Pole, and you built 5 stations or are building 5 stations? That doesn't count China, Russia, the United States, and all the European countries, as well as the Middle Eastern countries such as Iran, who are also building their own damn systems. So spare me the climate change BS. Get the hell out of here with that shit. And I'll tell you what, pardon my language, kids, but that's an appropriate use of the word when the Pope is going over and doing a 10 Commandments of climate change. What kind of scam is going on here? How much money is involved with this? Follow the money, guys, and the power. And I'll debate anybody on this if you want to go over it with me. I'll debate it with you as to whether or not hundreds of degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit, pockets sustained, not just for a minute or two, for hours on end like they did up at HAARP, for instance, up in Alaska. How can you complain to us about climate change? It's pathetic. Not to mention all your high-frequency systems that we're not even talking about, and microwave, and high-power microwaves, like radar systems, for instance, 750,000-watt microwaves broadcast out into the atmosphere. Oh, no heating, sure. Yeah, that's what you said about everything else. Turns out, the people who said these things were not possible, the heating of the atmosphere and man-made climate change and so forth, turns out they were completely wrong. And this man-made climate change isn't from your SUV or the amount of plastics you're consuming. That has to do with Agenda 2030 and limiting the amount of things you consume. Agenda 2021 was already complete. The UN started the Agenda 2021 program, and they completed it in 2021. You know what the goal was? To get people to reduce the amount that they consume, the amount that they travel, and the amount that they spend on things. And what happened in 2020 and 2021 that reduced everybody's travel and spending and so forth? Think about it. The chances of it happening, of their plan to limit your spending and your travel and everything, coinciding with that, is next to impossible. I'm just trying to wake you up. This is for real. This is really happening. So we really went off on a tangent here, but I'm still recording, so I'm going to go upload this to YouTube. Oh, they're going to love this. That little ending there. This is like normally what you get on Twitch. If you're a Twitch viewer, I go on these little tangents talking about things. I forgot I was recording here. So, yeah, now you all get to hear it over on the tube, where it's not welcome at all and everybody gets in trouble for saying anything controversial. Hey, that's the system you built for yourselves. It's to protect you guys over there. You know, bunch of 9-year-olds. All right. I'm one of them, by the way. I'm 46. I flipped those 6 upside down. I'm now 49. Okay. All right. 49, 4.9 Society. We're out of here. One final thing. Everyone, will you please look at the screen one more time? Look at the screen. Okay. Now, I'm taking you over to my Dutch Scent store. The Duchess has opened up and redone most of my products in my store. Look at what we got. We've got a BSGS sweatshirt, front and back. And their motto, the USGS motto, is science for a changing world. And I've made a changing world for science. BSGS sweatshirt, and check this one out, 4.9 Society. And it's awesome. 4.9 Society, look at it in orange. Look at this. Isn't this incredible? Duchess, she scored. It's also great in blue and purple and forest green. And no pressure, though. If you don't, again, you don't have to order. And I said the price is set at $49.99 too. You gonna get it? That's not all. We've got the DEW sweatshirt is back. Oh wait. Uh-oh. Hold on. What's going on here? What's going on there? My DEW sweatshirt is gone. Are you kidding me? They removed my DEW sweatshirt? No. Hold on. Ah. Error. 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 There it is. The DEW. If you don't know the story on this, the Department of Defense responded to my video when I captured this. I was on live one night looking at hotspots for earthquake purposes. We were on live. There's probably about 200 or 300 people watching. And I'm looking at the weather satellite, and DEW coming down from space, going into the California fire and leading it, several of the fires, leading the fires. I recorded it. I was live. I told all my viewers to send the video and the stream immediately to the Department of Defense. And I said when I was live, I go, I wonder if they even have somebody watching the weather systems to look for this kind of stuff. Like, you would never even think to check it kind of thing. It's bleeding over into the weather system. The weather system's picking up something you don't normally pick up, a directed energy weapon from space. So I recorded, put it out, put it in the description. Please send to the Department of Defense. 6 days later, the Department of Defense comes out and holds a special news conference and responded to the video. And the director of the Department of Defense confirmed that our enemies, quote unquote, have killer satellites in space, quote unquote, and that they can fire at a distance. And all of that is documented over on my Dutch Sense site. On my Dutch Sense page, you can go watch all of these. It's not even, again, if you're new and you don't know, you can go watch the live recording of me capturing it and the Department of Defense response 6 days later. So anyway, we've got the DEW sweatshirts, and on the back, now, round 2, says Dutch Sense in digitized writing, just like we're looking on some kind of military targeting program. Oh, man, I'll tell you what, it's been an adventure and a half. I hope you enjoy it. We have coffee mugs and pint glasses and stickers and all that other stuff, too, if you want to go over and check it out. So, Dutch Sense Teespring store. I will put a link down below in the description. I'll drop it into the chat room over on YouTube when this premieres back. I hope you enjoyed this update. One more time, huge earthquake hitting over in the West Pacific. We were expecting this. It's now next to it. This is day 2 of a 14-day watch. We are certainly not done yet. We're going to see this spread out across the planet. My forecast still stands from 2 days ago. You should probably go watch it. I'm not going to do another one. And I'm certainly not going to sit here and recap the forecast from 2 days ago, which takes an hour in its own right just to do the forecast for our planet. Much love, everybody. Man, I better drink some more coffee because I don't think we're going to be done even tonight. I think I'll probably be back on by the morning with another new large quake spreading out and away from this. Please be safe and don't be scared. Be prepared. Peace out.